The new love for Avatar: The Last Airbender has reignited one of the greatest debates in fandom history. Who's the best Avatar?
I'm very confused right now.
While everybody both loves Aang and Korra, there can be only one. If we're gonna answer the most important Avatar-related question of all time, we need to start by analyzing both heroes. It only seems right that Aang gets first dibs.
I'm the Avatar.
By Aang, I have to clarify that I mean the Aang we see during the television series, not the old man he eventually becomes. We don't really get to see adult Aang in action, so we can't really judge what he was like. When we meet Aang, he's a master airbender. We don't see much of the other airbenders in the series, but we can assume that he's on the upper tier skill level. He's able to go up against master benders who have had decades more experience than him without missing a beat. His duel against King Bumi occurred before Aang had even started learning waterbending, and he was still able to go toe-to-toe with one of the greatest earthbenders alive. Sure, Bumi wasn't giving it 100%, but that 11-year-old definitely made him sweat. This is important to single out because this shows just how brilliant of a warrior Aang was before he even approached his true power. Despite the fact that he was an immature child, he possessed battle awareness and creative bending skills that rivaled the best warriors of his age. Then he started learning to bend the other elements. While most avatars have years to master these skills, Aang had months. Sozin's Comet was on its way, and Aang had to cram in as much bending training he could before his final exam against the Fire Lord. There was definitely a lot of procrastination on his part, but that didn't matter because he put a serious hurt on Ozai. You know that's gotta be just so embarrassing, right? Imagine going from about to conquer the world to defeated by a child in one afternoon. He'd been hyped for his Comet's superpowers his entire life, only to mess it up right at the end. The kid even took his bending away as if he needed more shame. If you ever think you've had a bad day, trust me, it's nothing compared to what Ozai went through. Toph, Katara, Master Pakku, Zuko, and a few random tutors all had quite a time teaching Aang the other bending styles. His immaturity and short attention span proved to be quite the roadblock for each new element he tried to master. Most of his problems came from the different philosophies the other nations possessed. The air nomads seemed to live a pretty carefree life of fun and peace. This made it hard for him to study under a sexist, no-nonsense instructor like Pakku. Luckily, Katara water-slapped some sense into the old guy, so things got a bit easier for Aang. He didn't get so lucky when it came to training with Toph.
Keep your knees high, Twinkle Toes!
She showed him that an earthbender needs to be strong and tough. These are words that were never used to describe Aang. Still, he managed to persevere and he found his inner strength. Though, to be fair, Katara helped out with Toph as well. She was really his MVP teacher. Firebending was actually his greatest challenge. He tried to skip ahead in the cycle to learn it before water or earth and ended up burning Katara. The only way he was able to make peace with fire was to come to terms with the danger that came with it. Why all of that makes Aang more impressive is that he went from struggling with each form to him gaining relative mastery over them all in only a few weeks. We can assume that a lot of his training happened off-screen, but most of it seems to be on-the-job training. There's no better teacher than Azula throwing blue fireballs and lightning at you. I would probably learn how to earthbend just to get away from that terrifying little teenage sociopath. Despite everything impressive about Aang, he never really becomes a well-balanced bender. Even after he gains mastery over all the elements, he still favors air much more than the others. He's like 90% an airbender and like 10% everything else. You really can't say the same for Avatar Korra. If you haven't watched The Legend of Korra, go watch it because it's awesome.
I'm locking you away for another 10,000 years.
Pretty much from the get-go, Korra shows that she's not Aang at all.
Feels good to be back.
While Aang initially ran away from his Avatar duties, Korra jumped into hers with both feet. No one in the series has quite the attitude Korra has about bending. Some see it as a way of life. Some see it as a connection to nature. Then there are those that see it as nothing but a weapon. For Korra, it's a true passion. Like Ash Ketchum before her, she wants to be the very best, like no one ever was. If that passion wasn't obvious from the opening moments of the series, it becomes obvious when she literally joins a pro bending team. That's right, she's not just a warrior or a hero, but a professional athlete.
Woohoo! Man overboard!
Pro bending might just be the coolest thing in the Avatar universe. It's like Quidditch, but better. We all love Magic Broom soccer, but pro bending doesn't have a golden snitch that just ruins the game. Unfortunately, Korra has to cut her career short. You see, Ozai and Azula may have been terrifying villains, but they have nothing on Korra's bad guys. The socio-political conflicts that Korra had to contend with are also much more complicated than what Aang had to deal with. Aang mostly just had to stop the Fire Nation from trying to take over the world. You don't really have to ponder over whether or not you're doing the right thing when your enemy wants to attack the frickin' spirit of the moon. Things may have gotten trippy in Ba Sing Se, but the rest of it was mostly straightforward, good versus evil stuff. Korra never really had that experience. She spent her Avatar tenure trying to keep the peaceful world Aang created together. Amon and the Equalists weren't looking to take over the world so much as they were trying to fix inequality. A world where some people can bend elements and some can't could easily be argued to be fundamentally wrong. It's so much harder to be an Avatar when your villains make sense. Not only that, but Amon was also a psycho bloodbender who took people's bending away. And that guy was only the first season's villain. From there, she had to contend with the opening of the spirit world, civil wars, and a giant robot carrying a weapon of spiritual destruction. That really makes Azula's drill seem pretty unimpressive in comparison. The Red Lotus very nearly destroys the Avatar cycle altogether. Somehow, even that isn't as scary as Kuvira, who might be the best bender in the series. Well, maybe second best. Toph is probably number 1. No villain in this series is as terrifying as Vaatu, the literal embodiment of chaos. Aang might have defeated the Emperor Palpatine of his show, but Korra had to face down the Sauron of hers. If Iroh is the Avatar world's greatest uncle, Unalaq is the world's worst for letting Vaatu out. Seriously, Korra's post-series life should have been just an infinite vacation with Asami. She had to deal with all of this before most of us are even in college. And you thought your high school days were rough. Not only that, but she had to learn techniques that Aang never had to contend with in the series. Sure, we see her having already mastered most of the elements, but in Korra's timeline, that isn't as formidable. In an industrialized bending era, it's not enough to just be Avatar. While Aang struggled with many elements, Korra seemed to struggle the most with airbending. It was kind of the same problem in that the philosophy of airbending didn't mesh with her worldview. Korra's a fiercely competitive person, so a carefree, peaceful mindset is just not her thing. In fact, it wasn't until she had most of her powers taken away that she began to get the hang of air. It's kind of funny that she used airbending to throw punches at Amon. The air nomads would never have done that. From there, her job only got harder though. In the second season, the world is beset upon by dark spirits that Korra has to contend with. This is only the start of the constant threats that continue to plague the world in her time. The show really puts her through the ringer as she gets cut off from bending, cut off from her past lives, and even gets briefly wheelchair-bound. None of that matters though, as she always pulls through. Korra masters techniques like metal bending, energy bending, and even becomes a giant titan in her fight against Vaatu. That alone might be enough to win this. So, which one of these two Avatar forces of nature are the best? Well, let's go over our facts and calculate the results.
You guys go ahead.
Aang managed to master 3 elements in under a year at the age of 11. He defeated Ozai by taking his powers away, mastered the Avatar state, and brought balance and peace to a fractured world. Korra showed true promise with 3 of the 4 elements during childhood.
I'm the Avatar! You gotta deal with it!
By her teenage years, she had already mastered those 3 before finally conquering air. She then mastered spirit bending, defeated powerful enemies like the Red Lotus and Vaatu, and kept a splintering world intact. Ultimately, while both avatars rank among the greatest in history, Korra is the one who is more powerful. The real question is, how was she able to do all these things though? Well, that's simple. It's because of Aang that she was able to become arguably the most powerful avatar of all time. During the Avatar: The Last Airbender timeline, there were perhaps more innovations in the bending world than any other in history. We saw things like plant bending, blood bending, metal bending, and more. Aang learned techniques like lightning redirection and energy bending that weren't exactly taught by the Master Pakus of the world. All of these advancements led to the highly industrialized and spiritually challenging world that Korra lived in. They managed to go from basically medieval China on the verge of industrialization to 1920s New York in a generation. Aang, Toph, and the gang started quite the renaissance. These skills that Aang acquired and perfected led to both the challenges and victories that Korra lived through.
Did you see that?
Aang taking away Ozai's powers led to others like Amon and the Equalists doing the same. Korra then was able to learn how to restore not only her bending, but the bending abilities of everyone attacked by the group. This in no way is a slight against Aang or takes away from all the amazing things Korra was able to do. If anything, it's the entire point of the Avatar cycle. Avatars reincarnate so that they can learn and grow along with the world. Aang spends his entire series making up for the mistakes Avatar Roku made with Fire Lord Sozin. In a similar way, Avatar Kyoshi had to be the toughest Avatar of all time, just to make up for how lame Kuruk was. Seriously, the guy only made it to 33 and lost his fiancée to the frickin' face stealer. No wonder Kyoshi had no chill whatsoever.
Hey everybody, Avatar Kyoshi here.
Ultimately, Avatar Aang and Avatar Korra don't live on in a state of competition, but a state of harmony that other avatars didn't with their previous lives. Their failures and successes aren't proof that either is truly better, but that the two are the ultimate Avatar pair. The better world that Aang strived to create mixed with Korra's raw passion and determination made her grow beyond what any other Avatar was able to achieve. I don't know about you, but I don't think that Aang would want it any other way. In the same way, all Avatar fans should live in harmony as well. Whether or not you think Aang or Korra is better, we can all come together and agree that both series are true works of art, and that the movie is really bad. It's just so bad.
No kidding. Horrible. You said it.
So, what do you think, Avatar fans? Who is the greatest Avatar of them all? Tell us what you love about both Aang and Korra. Chances are we'll probably agree with you. Let us know in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to CBR for more Avatar action.